Hi, and thanks for joining us in the Departure Lounge.
This video series will take you on a journey full of inspiration and practical advice for the best goodbye. Hi there, Sarah here again, and in today's video we're going to be talking about some of the pros and cons of having an open mic at your loved one's celebration of life. We here at Redbird believe that there is something that's really nice about having some kind of a structure to the event, having a strong beginning, middle, and end that is planned for, that is prepared, that we can weave a theme throughout the ceremony as well. In an earlier Departure Lounge video, we talked about the power of ceremony and having some kind of formal portion of that celebration of life. But I think that oftentimes people are wary of having those or don't want to have a ceremony because they can associate them with long drawn out speeches or repetitive speeches that say the same thing over and over again. Of course, there is no right or wrong here when it comes to your decision to include an open mic or not. But we do like the idea of being prepared overall, having different prepared speeches that are reflective of the different aspects of your loved one's life or perhaps the different hats that they wore. But there are some pros that we can think about and touch on. A couple of pros when you think about having an open mic or not. One of them is that it does allow for that sense of informality. If you just kind of want a little bit more of a casual feel, that's something that the open mic does provide. Also, something that we've heard the couple of times that I've officiated services over the years is that we're glad that we opened it up because we heard that story or that memory from somebody who we didn't know or we wouldn't have thought to ask. And so we're so glad that we have that thought or that reflection from their perspective, which we wouldn't have had if we hadn't opened up the floor. But overall, there are several risks that you do want to think about when you think about opening up the mic. So number one is that there could be too many people that show up, and that I've seen people lined up on the side of whatever room that we're in the aisle, waiting to share their stories and their memories. And there's too many people, and it does become that long and drawn out service that nobody really is as engaged in by the end of it. Secondly, there is the opposite risk that happens, and that is that nobody wants to get up there or feels that they can, and it's total crickets. And then there's that sort of feeling, well, doesn't anybody have something nice to say about my mom? And that's not, a great feeling either. Thirdly, they're maybe going to come up, but they're not very prepared. And so they do just go on and on and on, or it just becomes more about them rather than the person that were there to celebrate their life. Oftentimes they can repeat things, that are already going to be said by somebody who is prepared and has stories and reflections, and it just does become sort of too repetitive. And then finally, here's the real kicker. There could be those inappropriate stories, those things that you don't want grandma to hear from the high school bandmate or from that, that quirky cousin or whoever it is. And all of a sudden the focus becomes that, and that takes away from the purpose of the celebration of life. And that's just not the lasting impression that you want people to leave your loved one's celebration of life thinking, because somebody had too much to drink or there was some story that shouldn't have been included that you don't want present. So those are some of the risks. Like I said, there are a couple of pros, but overall we think that ceremonies can be personal, relaxed, and more informal events, but when you do have that sense of structure around it, it can just make it that much more impactful and meaningful for what you need. So those are just a couple of pros and cons to consider when you think about whether you want to incorporate an open mic in your celebration of life event for your loved one. We would love to hear from you, though. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Are you pro open mic? Con? What are your stories? Do you have any good ones of when they went off the rails? We'd love to hear and engage. And again, thank you so much for those of you who continue to follow with us, to share these posts, and let us know what other topics that you'd like us to cover here in the Departure Lounge. Thanks and take care. Bye bye.